Stewart-Haas Racing in Danica, coming off a strong showing at Talladega. And your teams have made a switch here this week. I guess it'll take effect next week at Texas. But just talk about how things are going and maybe your thoughts about the change there.
Should I move this? Can you see me?
Yeah, that's better. Thank you.
Whatever. If you don't know who I am, you won't care probably. I'm wearing a suit, so I feel like it's pretty obvious. Well, yeah, Talladega was was just about right. Coming out of the pits leading, going into the pits leading, coming out leading, and having Jimmy behind me, and I knew there wasn't very much left because I knew that we were not that far off on making it on fuel, so I knew it was a pretty short distance, and I thought, wow, this is going to be awesome, me and Jimmy, and then I was like, and Jimmy's got to win to get in the chase. I'm like, this could get really messy. But then the yellow came out, so then it got, I guess, a different kind of messy, but we were in a good spot, and I think in general things have been going all right, and we've been, running better here at the end of the season and putting our races together better. And I think we had some speed like we've had lately earlier this season, but just weren't able to fully execute or had either mistakes on my part or failures or mistakes on pit lane that would affect our outcome. So in general, things have kind of just been coming together a little bit better lately. And, with NASCAR changing some rules and letting us know at this point what they're going to be for next year, we know that we're not going to get a lot of on-track time before next season. And so, if the team and team wants changes made or has ideas, it's probably in everybody's best interest to make moves now so that things can start off on the right foot for 2015 instead of starting from scratch and trying to develop a accurate dialogue and relationship on the radio. So I know Daniel. He was my race engineer when I did the 10 races with Zipadelli for Stewart-Haas in 2012. Really nice guy, very smart, and he's definitely a lot like the kind of engineers, and in fact in IndyCar it was called an engineer instead of a crew chief that I was used to dealing with. So we've gotten along anyway, regardless of whether he's been on my car or not. So I'm definitely open-minded and looking forward to the opportunity to see how it'll go with him.
Okay, thanks, Danica. We'll take a few questions. Jeff Gluck will lead us off, and then Aaron, and then Jim Utter.
Jeff Gluck from USA Today. Earlier, Zippy was saying that your personality and what you're looking for might just mesh better with an engineer type than an old-school crew chief type. You touched on a little bit with the IndyCar background, but can you just expand on why that is?
Well, I just think that it's something that I'm used to. I'm used to someone that has an engineering approach to what they do, and I don't think that it has to be that way. But I think that everybody's looking for some magic and a relationship that takes you to the next level, and maybe getting back to something that actually just having something I haven't really had in NASCAR yet. Actually, I've had kind of all more crew chief style crew chiefs, old school crew chiefs that, maybe it'll be something that'll work better. I don't know.
Let's go to Aaron and then to Jim Utter.
Right there. Aaron Burns, National Speed Sport News. Got a two-parter for you, Danica. First, can you talk about what you remember from your first race at Martinsville? And second of all, can you list a couple people who were your heroes in racing growing up?
I have a lot of fond memories of my first race here in Martinsville. I think I finished 11th. I was 2 laps down at the beginning, and I had to start in the back for an engine change, and then I spun, and I was 2 laps down, and then I got them all back and finished 11th. So I had an awesome first race here at Martinsville, and I had a hot dog and I didn't have a hot dog since then. So I just walked by the concession stand and said, I'll be back for a hot dog tomorrow. I don't want to risk eating it on race day. I'm not really sure that that's a good idea. So I'm sure. I don't even, you know what? Even if I feel sick, I feel like it works. They don't look like regular hot dogs, but maybe that's because they don't have the regular effect of a hot dog. They help you in the race car. They're small. It can't hurt. So that's my plan this weekend. I should serve them at Thanksgiving. I pride myself on my food, and I'm not sure that would help me any. But here at Martinsville it does. So, yeah, going to have a hot dog. And as far as heroes go, my answer is usually a little bit disappointing, but I can't say I didn't really have any. I just didn't. I didn't want to be like anyone. I wanted to learn from people that I was around and make myself better. But as I always say, I wanted to be the first Danica Patrick, not the next somebody else. So I had a lot of people that I learned from that were very valuable in my career and that helped me along, but nobody that I idolized or was my role model necessarily.
We'll go to Jim Utter, then Reed Spencer.
Jim Utter, when asking Zippy out earlier today and talking about kind of the some people's surprise that in a season where it appeared you were making progress that you would decide to change, he said that your speed on the track and your qualifying were certainly much better, but the race results weren't. And at the end of the day, that's what matters the most. Is that your kind of approach or behind the moves? Is that really the crux for making the change?
Well, I don't know if necessarily. I mean, if you always want the results, sure, but I think that within the team, we're all smart enough to know that if the speed is there and at times it's going well enough, it will come together. I also am not the one that makes the ultimate decisions. So if that's what he said, then I guess that's what he said. But from my perspective, there are more pieces than just me. It's obviously in this situation there's Kurt and there's all kinds of people involved, and in general, collaboratively, apparently that this is the move that they thought would be the best for everyone and give us the best head start at 2015 and perhaps the opportunity for things to improve, because it's not as though they, for me, it's not as though they were bad. It's just, you want to go out there and win every weekend. So, and I'm sure Kurt wants to do the same. And so, until you come across a relationship like someone like Jimmy and Chad have, perhaps there's always room for improvement, I guess.
We'll go to Reed and Bob. Reed.
Reed Spencer with NASCAR Wire Service. Danica, in the same vein as Jim's question, given the fact that you have shown obvious progress with Gibson so far this year, do you feel like personally that you wanted or needed a change to take the next step forward?
I'm not sure. I think that, things had started to definitely take a nice turn for in a better direction the last part of the year, and so I was open-minded to anything, and like I said, ultimately at the end of the day, these decisions are not made by me. So I feel like things had been going in a nice direction, but again, there's a bigger scale of things going on than just me. So the rearranging took place. But I'm very open-minded, and I'm not scared of change, and I definitely am one that believes that you can't know if something could be better unless you try it. So I'm ready for the challenge and the change and the possibility of it being better than what it is.
Let's go to Bob Pockrass and then to Greg.
I am afraid of changing my hairstyle, though. I have never done that.
Bob Pockrass, Sporting News. Daniel's listed as an interim, and is there anything that you'd want to see over the last 3 races that would make you feel comfortable with him being your crew chief next year?
Well, I think that, that we click, and that the things that are felt in the race car and then conveyed over the radio, and the changes that are made in relationship to that, if that takes a fast course in a good direction, and we seem to click well and make progress throughout the weekend, then I think that will be a really positive sign. I think that's always a challenge, and so if that's good, then that's I feel like a good sign for the future. I know I already get along with him as a person. As I said, I've worked with him before, and I've seen him plenty of times in the shop, and we've chatted plenty of times, so I know I get along with him. Now it's time to see if we get along in a competitive atmosphere where it becomes more technical than just friendship.
Let's go Chris Knight, and then gentleman on the front row here.
Chris Knight, CatchNS.com. Danica, can you talk about how much knockout qualifying has played to your importance in your second year of Cup racing?
Well, now I can think of some times that it has helped me. There have been a couple of times that it has. I feel like maybe there's more times that it hasn't, though. I think in the first round of everybody going out and qualifying, I feel like we usually find ourselves in a pretty good spot, and sometimes then go down from there, or don't get better in the second round or something like that. But it's definitely, I've qualified much better, so I don't know. I can't attribute that to one thing. I can't tell you whether or not that's, the mind frame that I'm in because you have more opportunities, or if it's just because we are in a better position of working together long enough that they've identified the little things that I need that help me in qualifying, or if it's just me getting better. I haven't been around long enough to have enough qualifying runs to create an average one direction or the other. So all I know is qualifying's gone better, and for that I'm very happy.
Let's go front row here.
Brad Orban with NASCAR.com. So you are a senior editor for the Players Tribune. I'm curious how that opportunity came about.
How does that come across to all you guys?
Well, we're wondering why you're
I'm a senior editor.
Regular editor.
Impressive.
How did that come about? Did you enjoy writing the first story, and do you have any ideas for what you're going to write about next?
I don't think that what I'll do next will be writing. And that's, I guess, leads me into what I feel is really interesting about the Players Tribune, is that it's a platform that allows athletes to, first and foremost, say what they want to say in their own words. And then I'll use the first piece as an example. There are writers on staff for the Tribune, and I was with them for an entire day. Everything from working out to grocery shopping to going to buy curtains. I mean, they were with me the whole time. Hair and makeup, getting done for Kevin Harvick's event that was a couple of weeks ago. They were with me the whole time. It was turned around and published within like a day or two of them being with me. So there are writers for it, and then I went through and I edited a lot, actually, quite a bit. And so it's crazy to think that the way that I went and put it into the computer, which was very informal, but my voice was literally what was published. And so that's what I'm using as the example, that, your words are exactly what is put out there. And beyond that, then there's that ability to be able to do things that let people see a side of your personality that you might not have a reason to show. So for me, I want to try really hard to make people think I'm funny. So I'm going to try real hard at that. But other than that, it's good for, whatever it is as an athlete you feel like you want to put out there. Maybe it's to correct something. Maybe there's something that happens and perhaps it gets written about and you don't feel like it's been portrayed the right way. It'll give you a chance to go and tell your side of the story. But I really see it as an opportunity for me because I feel like I have a good relationship with all of you, and I feel like you guys do a nice job for me and write really great stuff. But there's no reason for you to paint me in a funny picture or show my more Martha Stewart side. So this gives me the opportunity to do some of those things. So expand my brand and show different sides of my personality, and then do it along with other athletes, which is, I think, a really interesting way to see things. From an athlete-to-athlete perspective, I think it would be really fun to have athlete-to-athlete Q&As and things like that. So just stuff that might not otherwise get the chance to happen. And I'm just flattered that I was asked to be a senior editor. And Derek has put together a really cool program, and I'm glad I'm in it.
I think it's cool, to be honest with you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to Jordan.
Jordan Mundner at Danville Register and B. This weekend is special for a number of reasons, but David Reagan. Oh well, it's a 50-year milestone of the track presenting a grandfather clock as a trophy, and also they're running special paint schemes to honor Wendell Scott here, who has ties to the area. So with the special paint schemes and the tributes, it also brings to light sort of the discussion of diversity in NASCAR, and with you.
I've never benefited from the diversity program.
So I guess for you, what in your eyes, what needs to be done for more women to get
clearly
more?
Then I wouldn't think that there needs to be a diversity program if I'm here and I didn't get in. It wasn't like they asked me to be in it. They didn't give my team or me any money. They didn't say, we'd love you,
Right.
So I would say that you have to just make it.
And I guess.
And I'm not saying I'm here, just like, I'm not saying that being a girl hasn't helped, but I didn't need a program to make it happen.
And for you, have you sort of accepted the role as a trailblazer, as a woman in NASCAR, and as a role model for young women who hope to one day fill your shoes in the sport?
Sorry, do I hope to?
No, have you accepted your role as a trailblazer and as a role model to young women?
Sure. I don't really think about it that much. I think about my relationship with young kids and how that's really cool and special and unique, and I really enjoy the kids. So that's something I think about, and I'm grateful to be a role model to some of them. But as far as beyond that, sure, I think it is what it is, but it's not something that I set out to do. My parents never brought me up to feel like I was any different, so I was never taught to be the fastest girl. I was taught to be the fastest.
Any other questions for Danica? Nate Ryan?
Sorry, we're always hard on the young ones.
That's right.
I'm always hard on the young ones.
That's right.
Nate Ryan, USA Today Sports. We were just talking to Ricky out there about what it was like for him.
Speaking of a young one.
Watching the race, yeah. 7 years
I'm
younger,
just
right?
kidding. He is young, though.
He was talking about, obviously, his emotions Sunday, having to watch the race, having to sit out. What was it? I'm sure you experienced the same gamut of emotions between Saturday, him missing, Sunday, you leading. I mean, it must have been a pretty emotional weekend.
I was really pissed off after qualifying. I thought I went to the NASCAR hauler and I said, what the is this? Is that what we were trying to accomplish? Because part of it was because it was Ricky, and part of it was because that could have just as easily been me. And I know how important those races are to me and my team, but then also my sponsors and the people who invest into those events, and especially the big ones, the speedways, all of them. They're all big, and those are all very big races for us every year, all 4 of those, obviously in particular the Daytona 500. And so, I was fighting for not having someone that wasn't deserving being in that situation. So, but then, I went back to the bus after that, and I just, I felt really, really bad for him, and I said, I don't think any girl could probably relate as well as I can for you, partly because of what I do, but because it could have been me, and he wanted to go home, and as much as a girlfriend, I wanted him to stay and be there. I was like, I get it. If you want to go home, go home. I get it. He wanted to ride the tractor all day and not even watch the race, which kind of for a second made me go, oh, well, then you won't watch. But I get it. I wouldn't want to watch either if I was in that scenario. So I really understood where he was coming from. And, he ended up doing the right thing. He had some sponsor obligations the next day, and he was upset by that for a second, and that just wasn't going to change. So, and at the end of the day, he didn't fight to not make it happen. He knew that was the right thing to do, and he did the right thing and stayed and made the most of it. And, I just hope that no one undeserving is ever in that scenario in the future, and hopefully NASCAR does something to make sure that it doesn't happen. Yeah, they didn't give me a solution, but I don't blame them. I mean, you really don't want to argue with Mr. Helton, so but I was glad they were all in there because I thought it was important that they that they knew that even if it was just me that was upset and scared, and I said, I'm throwing my hand up saying I'm afraid it's going to be me next. So I think they very much understood, and I think that they as a series don't want to see their cars that come week in and week out with sponsors not make the race. The last thing we want to do is lower the car count for qualifying, the car count to qualify in Sprint Cup because we don't have the cars to fill. So I'm sure that they understand, and they'll do everything they can to make appropriate changes. But as they said, there's a lot going on to make those decisions, and I understand, but I don't fully understand. So I'm sure that they will. I would be surprised if there weren't changes made for next year. And if not, I don't know what the heck I'm going to do. Because I don't think that there's a way you can plan it perfectly. I thought Ricky actually did the right thing to be last, because if you go out first, you're last. And so their argument was about having 25 minutes and not using it right, and then giving 5 minutes and not using it right. I'm like, well, the cars who went out and made the full 5 minutes are last. And the ones that almost made all 5 minutes and were only one and maybe another car with them were virtually last. And those guys almost didn't make the race then in a perfect storm if it would have happened. So if you go out first, you're just driving to last. And so you go out at the back of it and you suck it up and you go to the back and then you don't make it in time. And it's like, well, if you would have rolled out first, you'd been last anyway. So I don't think that there's a way to do it that is calculated. I think it's all a little bit of it's a lot of a crapshoot and just getting lucky and being in the right place at the right time. And the only thing he could have done different was be in the middle of that group. But how can you make that happen? You can't make sure that you're in the middle of the group. It's a clock that you're not looking at and a scenario that you can't see all of. Sorry, I get a little long-winded every time I talk about it.
Any other questions for Danica? Well, Danica, certainly thank you for coming in, and good luck the rest of the season.
Thanks, guys. Good to see you all. I hope I have a reason to come back.